It took the son of Swaziland 16 long years to return to his African roots. For all that time in Nkosinati Gumedzi, he had been living in the land of Israel as an Orthodox Jew and a rabbi.
I feel like an embrace of God when I'm at the Western world. It's an amazing feeling. And this is where I feel my spiritual home is.
Yet Nati traces his lineage to the once Royal Gumedzi clan in the Kingdom of Swaziland.
I feel that sense of royalty. It's more what they call in Yiddish Edelkeit, a certain type of nobility.
Now Rabbi Gumedzi brings his spiritual odyssey full circle. After so many years, he's finally ready to embrace his African family and his heritage. This is Nati's remarkable story. At Johannesburg International Airport, the homecoming committee await Nati's arrival, unable to disguise pent-up emotions.
And I see this pretty young woman running towards me. And then as I look closer, I see it's my sister. 16 years. And I look at her, she gives me a big hug. There's nothing you can say. What can you say? It's just raw emotion. Raw emotion, emotion at its rawest.
For years, he's lived as an Orthodox Jew, associating only with other Jews. But now Nati returns to the bosom of his family, most of whom are dedicated Christians.
Nati was exposed to our Christian way of living from a very early childhood, even before he was born. My husband would pray for that child, and even some of them give them names that God has given for the path of this child. And Nati's name is Emmanuel, God with us.
The birth name is Emmanuel, and that Nkosinati, which means God is with us in Zulu, is simply a translation from the Hebrew. That to me already seems almost like Hashem had already marked me, God had already marked me as a different child.
Most of the Gumedzi family worship at the Evangelical Church in Midrand, where Brother Becky is pastor.
He was very active in the church. He'd go to church every Sunday, prayed together, would worship together. So he was brought up in a Christian way.
I come from a family where people have got pretty strong personalities. My being away from my family has allowed my personality as a Jew to ripen. At first, after my conversion, I was afraid that they would try and bring me back to Christianity. And I was determined to keep my Judaism.
Because Nati has chosen a lifestyle that is completely different from what I'm used to. He eats different food. He can't do the things that we do. He can't come and worship with us. I can't go and worship in his church.
You don't want to be identified with what I would regard as a Jew, as a foreign way of worshiping God.
Becky Gumedzi also followed a deeply spiritual path in the Christian way. Becky was called to the ministry following a childhood battle with asthma, relieved only by the prayers of the oldest brother, Temba.
Having that as a background, then when my grandfather passed away, my mother's father, the Lord spoke to me in an almost audible voice and said to me, "Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?" And I said, "Yes, I'll go." And that's where my preaching ministry began. I feel that each person makes their own decision, and we're raised that way, to make our own decisions in life, and I cannot impose upon his choices, but I just relate to him as my brother. And I'm happy to see him again. That's the bottom line. As far as how he has chosen to go his path, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him, but it doesn't really change anything that I would believe, what I believe. And the rest, I think, is in the hands of God.
The oddest thing that struck me is that he's exactly the same. Yeah, and in one sense, the tassels and all those things are, I don't see that. I see Nati. Obviously, he's grown up. I mean, 16 years from being mid-20s to being early 40s is a big change in a person's life. But Nati possibly has changed the least of all of us. I think what has happened to him has been positive for him. There's no question about it. It's given him a purpose perhaps that he didn't have before. It's given him an anchor that perhaps he was lacking before. But he is Nati.
If anything like this, where one of them becomes a rabbi, happens in a family, I'm not surprised it happened in my family. It's the right place for it to happen, because we have brought them in the way they should go, not the way we should go.
Really? Yeah.
Now that they see me after so many years, they obviously realize that it would be no go, and they're just so happy to have me back, as it were. Okay, remain a Jew, but at least we've got our boy back.
And now that the boy is back, Nati feels compelled to make a pilgrimage to the ancestral family home in the heart of the Swazi kingdom. The border is the first port of call. Here the gulf between Swazi local and Swazi foreigner causes some confusion.
How come you're from Israel?
I haven't seen my father for many years.
How many years?
16.
16 years. You're surprised.
He's an old man now. It was an experience. Not having been here for 16 years, I sort of wondered whether the fact that I'm Israeli is valid. And I said, no, you're one of ours, sort of half expecting to be kidnapped. And then the person behind there thought he was speaking Hebrew, but in fact he was speaking Arabic. So he thought he was like saying shalom, but he said salam alaikum. And I answered back in Arabic as well, alaikum salam.
First stop on the homecoming journey is the village in southern Swaziland where Nati was born. Relatives gather at the old family home to welcome back a long-lost son.
So, what is like a dream?
It's a dream come true.
Oh, yeah, all right.
It's a big thing for me, after 16 years, to see my family. What I can say is, Berachnuchem b'shem Hashem. That means in Hebrew, I bless you in the name of God.
But the joy of reconnecting with family and Dad, who's now in his 80s, is mingled with sadness and touches a raw nerve.
And I just want to ask my father for forgiveness that I didn't speak to him in such a long time.